My name is Bret, Easton, Ellis, and I'm the author of White, which is my first nonfiction collection. You might say something that people aren't going to like, and you might have an idea that some people aren't going to like, but if you believe in it, you have to, stand by, stick to it. And a lot of people are afraid to do that, and you can even tell that with some writers. People want to stay on the common ground. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. They don't want to offend people. They don't want people to get upset. And I think creativity to me, that sums up creativity to me, being an individual who is fearless about what their beliefs are. I'm not political, and I have no interest in politics. I'm kind of an absurdist. I think politics are absurd. I had a boyfriend who ran gubernatorial campaigns. I saw firsthand what I didn't like about the whole process. And I've just been pretty apolitical my entire life. Yet I live with someone who is super political, super politically charged. And what is interesting is that though I don't necessarily agree with his ideology and his take on things, I learn a lot from it. And I do see both sides of the aisle. And I do live in I don't live in a bubble. I live in a mixed world where I know people on one side of the aisle, I know people on the other side of the aisle, and then I live with a very extreme person who's way far on the other side. For some reason, as a writer, I've noticed that style is everything. That you can have any character in the world, you can have the best story in the world. If you don't have a voice selling it, if you don't have a style, you really don't have anything. And I learned this as a writer very early on, that voice and style are everything. And then you can sell whatever you want. And I noticed this also in film, and it's just something that I've been very aware of. A message movie for me is not as interesting as, say, the flourish of spectacle. And that's something that interests me. I mean, I suppose you can have both, but I don't know, I'm much more drawn to the purity of genre. And I know there was this big controversy last week with this New Yorker piece about me, a New Yorker interview, which was kind of like a prank. I got punked, I have to admit it. But one of the questions was, I say I'm not political, why are we going here? And he said, well then you shouldn't have written a political book. And I don't see this book as political at all. I mean, I think I mentioned Trump in it far less than I mentioned him in American Psycho, was when the era that I first noticed Trump and first had problems with Trump. And I think because I got that out of my system then, my boyfriend thinks I have a kind of laissez-faire attitude about it, when I should be a lot angrier and upset about everything. Being asked about politics is, I don't know, you can get me there to a certain place, but I just don't know how much they interest me as someone who's an ironist. And also, quite honestly, as what this book was going to be called, A White Privileged Male, which the book does talk about. I mean, am I exempt in some ways from the hard realities of what happens when politics, change gears, change hands? And you can look at my books and see them as very political works, especially American Psycho has been looked at as one. I see it as a more personal book, and I see it as more of a book about a young man, actually a boy trying to become a man in a society he doesn't really believe in. That to me seems to be a very universal story, and I think that's one of the reasons why that book has carried on. I don't know if it's the politics of late century capitalism or, that really is what excites people so much about that book. I think there's a style to it. People talk about the style all the time, and they talk about the extremity of the character, and that seems to get people excited about the book. But I don't know. I mean, is certainly Glamorama, which was an international thriller. There were politics involved, and the main mystery stemmed from a political candidate's aspirations. So I don't know, but I don't look at myself as a political writer. The most unexpected thing was that even though this is nonfiction, I pulled a lot of stuff from my podcasts, a couple of things that I'd written in the past, and I put it together in this book. And it was not just a collection of essays, a collection of podcasts that I did. It was actually, I was shocked, a literary experience. It's nonfiction, but I realized I was approaching it like I would approach a novel, that I wanted it to flow, I wanted to have a beginning, a middle, an end, I wanted it to peak at a certain place. And so everything that I had learned writing fiction, I was applying to this essay, this 8-part essay. And that was unexpected. And what was even more unexpected is that it sparked something off in me to maybe go back to fiction again. And I did not think that that was a possibility. And so I started thinking about this new novella, and maybe I shouldn't overthink the book because it took me a very long time to write many of my novels, and maybe to just do a really fast one that's fun, that's, maybe for people instead of just for myself. And I'm still toying with that. But that was a very unexpected thing.